Let me introduce my next guest. His name is Honorable James Waishaguru.
Correct. Correct.
And he's the MCA for Nkaimunya Ward. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you, Joyce.
All right. All right. So we want to go through events of the week in brief with him. And 22999 once again is the SMS line. Send us your feedback and your comments. You can also contact us on Facebook at Switch TV Kenya. And be sure to follow me at Joyce Omondi on those platforms as well. So for now, let's begin, of course, with the biggest thing this week, which was the lifting of sort of the county lockdown, you could say. President Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, reopened the country after 3 months of lockdown. On Monday, he rolled back travel restrictions placed to tame the spread of COVID as he seeks to strike a balance between containing the disease and stopping the economy from sinking to new depths. The president also announced that movement in and out of Nairobi, Mombasa, and Mandera counties would be lifted. And the nationwide curfew was, however, extended for a further 30 days. What was your take on that? Obviously, this has been quite a catch-22 situation.
Yep.
Do you think it was the right move, considering where the numbers are at today?
Joyce, allow me first to appreciate and thank you for having me on this show, The Full Circle. And I would really want to give you feedback that Kenyans out there, people out there really appreciate this show, and especially because of airing what really touches on the common mwananchi, and so I'm glad to be here. It's quite an honor.
Thank you very much.
About the lifting of the ban and restrictions by the president, I want to say it was a good move. One, let me say that I'm the chief whip of the Kajiado County Assembly, the Jubilee Party, and President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is my president and party leader. And one of my ambitions and one of my focus is to support the president, support the country, support my party to see that we are able to achieve what we promised Kenyans. About lifting the ban, Joyce, I really want to say it has been a difficult time. It has been a difficult time. People not being able to hustle for their families, people not being able to work and make ends meet. And the majority of Kenyans out there are depending on food on hand to mouth. It is like sitting down and watching somebody drowning or standing by somebody drowning and you cannot help them. Fine, we understand the effects of COVID and all that it has come with it, but again, life has to go on.
Right.
We need at the earliest opportune time to learn how to live with this disease.
Right.
I really want to say you'd come and find that somebody who has been able to feed his family, pay his rent, you know, asking for food, you know, it is quite a big challenge. And I really want to say that if Kenyans conform to the regulations, the advice, the protocols are given all over, that we will be able to live with this disease.
Right.
Joyce, could you imagine you come to a barrier, you're driving your car, you need to give your letters and show your identity, and on the sidelines, people are riding with motorbikes, 4 of them, you know, people are just walking across. After every barrier on either sides, there is a bus stop. What's the sense of it? So I think I really want to support what the president and the government decided to do,
Right.
and that it is upon us as Kenyans.
It really
It is everyone's civic responsibility to ensure that we are able to contain the spread of this disease.
Right.
Yeah.
And along with that, certainly, obviously, within our country here, and we've seen a lot of people really struggling. So it's you know, we definitely have to sympathize with one another. And so, you know, if we want to be able to sort of move on with life, you know, from what 2020 has been, you're right. There's a lot of responsibility that now falls upon us as individuals.
Exactly.
International flights, though, are now scheduled to sort of resume on August 1st. Do you think that one should be postponed while we try and focus, you know, internally first, or?
Personally, I don't think so. I don't think we should postpone international flights or any other form of travel. I have seen the Ministry of Transport through the CS, Honorable Macharia, give travel protocols, like on road travel. I think the same should be done for air travel. What I want to believe is that if there is to be social distancing and all that, I am not so sure how affordable these flights will be, if in case they have to reduce the capacity of passengers and things like that. But I want to believe that restricting ourselves from foreigners or from us doing trade with other countries or people traveling, I don't really think we are the safest or we have the best prevention measures. So it's upon, this is a global issue. I'd much more advocate for the change of the change of behavior and ensuring there is safety in all forms of travel, air, road, sea, rail, all forms of travel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, a lot of counties then are also just not really ready for corona patients. And now with travel being opened up, there's obviously a real concern as far as, you know, sort of spreading the virus even further, especially in places where they literally don't have capacity.
Sure.
How are we going to handle that?
Once again, Joyce, as I've said earlier, it is all about people conforming to the regulations side. You remember C.S. Mutahi Kagwe saying that if you treat this disease normally, it will treat us abnormally. What I want to say is that we really have to focus on prevention of the spread of COVID. Regardless, if people will not, if we will not be able to minimize the spread of this disease, certainly the infrastructure we have for health across the country in all counties will not be able to sustain the pressure. So I really want to say, you realized recently the president held the summit with the governors of all the counties, and they spoke, they insisted on mostly creation of isolation centers, and they said a minimum of at least 300 beds, which is quite little. But I want to say that the infrastructure we have, if we as Kenyans do not take this responsibility, then way and above the infrastructure will be overstretched, and there is no way that the facilities we have in the counties will be able to meet those numbers.
Okay. How much, you know, sort of influence does the political class now have on this personal, you know, responsibility as far as distancing? Because of course the real concern now with things opening up is we are expecting to see this mushrooming now of political campaigns and whatnot. That means pulling together crowds, or if not large crowds, it's going to be barazas someplace and little meetings, town halls, whatever it could be. So, you know, as a politician yourself, how are you guys going to be responsible for that?
Honestly, with COVID, it doesn't matter whether you're a politician, whether you're a church elder, or whoever you are. We just need to behave. Why do I say this? I saw recently somebody tweeting and saying that now churches are open, we can go back to doing our politics and stuff. We need a lot of civic education. And honestly speaking, Joyce, as a politician, you need to make a choice. One, how sure are you that you yourself on that 2022 you are campaigning for, you'll be there? And secondly, why would you lead people? Why would you want, how sure are you that people will be there to vote for you? We really need to be responsible, even us as politicians. We have to. I would think, I would feel, I would see and imagine what kind of guilt one would have, having held a rally somewhere, having gone to give donations, Zunga or whatever for political mileage, and you make people get infected, you know?
So you're saying politicians should just sit tight?
We just need, and I think we need to lead from the front and to ensure that Kenyans treat this disease abnormally.
Right, right. Okay, well, I want us to take a break now. And when we come back, I want us to jump into a bit of politics, but also examinations, of course. 2020, you know, just should we just write off the year? I don't know. But there's, of course, a lot happening on the education scene with that. And many of our viewers are actually students. So I want us to talk about the effects of that for them, with exams being cancelled and schools to be reopened next year. This and so much more coming up. 22999 is the SMS line, remember, and also on Facebook at Switch TV Kenya. We'll see you shortly.
Thank you.
All right, guys, welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. Thank you again for your company. And we are here discussing events of the week in brief with Honorable James Waishaguru, who's the MCA for Nkaimunya Ward. Karibu tana to the show.
Thank you.
Now, of course, Sabasaba Day was marked earlier this week, and several protesters taking part in those demonstrations across Nairobi on Tuesday morning were met with tear gas and arrests by police. And you know, it just feels very sad that every year of Sabasaba celebrations there's always some sort of violent disruption. This is a multi-party democracy. There are some images actually on your screen, and you could see police again armed up, ready to go to essentially clobber Kenyans. You and I.
That's sad, yeah.
You know, is this necessary? I mean, don't we have the freedom to sort of express ourselves, or what do you think is the real trouble?
Joyce, I'd want to first, whenever we have a commemoration, whenever you have your birthday, whenever we have a remembrance to anything, there has to be some relation of what happened then and what you want to remember. You know, we have the Heroes' Day and things like that. I want to remember back in 1990, on the Sabasaba Day. You know, it had a niche, it had a gist. It was a culmination of a process that had begun in the 1980s, specifically around the 1988. And the young Turks then, people like Orengo, Raila and all that, with the support of senior politicians, managed to unite Kenyans for the clamor of multi-party democracy, you know. They ensured that KANU repelled Section 2A. But, and you can tell, they're just, whatever they wanted to do was not a show-off. It was something to achieve something for the betterment of this country. Even their choice of the grounds they used, you remember Kamukonji, it had some relation with a common person.
Right.
However, as time has gone by, this day, the Sabasaba Day has been used for very many different interests. Let us talk about what happened recently. As I said, 1990 I was only 10 years old, but you could tell, you could associate with what was happening. Joyce, I looked at what demonstrations were there and what they were all about. Civil society, what was the focus about? We have institutions in this country. I want to believe that we can only strengthen our institutions. What I realized the demonstrations were for this year, they were about police brutality during the COVID-19, honestly speaking. We have the Independent Police Oversight Authority. We have legal channels that we can use. I want to believe that Sabasaba Day is a very important day for this country. We still have people who, you know, Kina Timothy Njoya, Kina Charles Rubia, you know, you remember so many people. And I want to believe that this day could be used as the same way 1990 they were fighting for multi-party democracy, to see that we have democracy, to see that we have come to get devolution. It would have been used in a better way. What really put me off out of those demonstrations, and like in 1990 when 21 people died, thousands were hurt. We had 20 arrested, but the worst of all was to see those people who are leading this demonstration using vulgar language on television. You know, it's so unfortunate. What are we telling the young people?
Sure.
Did they have to go to the middle of the street? I will always condemn police brutality.
But do you
The
not
force
think that
method-
there's also a point of, sorry to interrupt you, a point of frustration too, that now whatever day one can find to sort of help symbolize this liberation, that Kenyans, you know, some activists will take up because they feel, as much as we're saying there's IPOA and, you know, that we institution building, the fact is those institutions are not working.
True.
Our legal channels, we are seeing how our CJ has been so frustrated. So there's really a sense of a lack of trust in these institutions that are supposed to be doing the same. Police, we've been seeing some of them have been very unscrupulous, taking up bribes when they're not supposed to be. So, you know, I feel like it's both factions really coming and meeting and clashing in the center. Because is it possible then that Kenyans feel that they don't have an outlet and that the only way for us to express ourselves is to go out into the streets?
Joyce, I want to agree with you. But again, I want to believe that through the same process, the civil society, why can't we mobilize Kenyans to ensure that the institutions we have are working? Why can't we join up with the judiciary? Why can't we join up with all these commissions that are there? Unfortunately, what really puts me off is the using of such a day to bring something totally different. You know, harassment, and as I've said, let us be organized. I would imagine that those people who are there, Raila and the rest, they would really want to commemorate this day. You know, they were clobbered. Bring Akina Timothy Njoya in place. Let us ask ourselves, whatever they intended to achieve then what problem do we have? And then we demonstrate towards that.
So stepping away from the actual Sabasaba Day, and you're saying Kenyans really need to join up, you know, with you know, these arms of government. How are we supposed to do that? Because essentially we've elected you guys to be able to do this work for us. We don't have the connections. I can't walk into parliament and go and, you know, demand to see somebody. How is that actually supposed to be happening?
During the Sabasaba in 1990, there were still elected people in this country, right? What I want to say is that I saw the young guys then really talk very strongly to the middle class. I think what we need to do is we have a lot of disconnect between the middle class and what is happening in the country. We need a lot of civic education. And I'm telling you, if all us Kenyans came up, these authorities, these institutions, of course, they will get the power and they'll be able to work. But we should not always result into use of intimidation, use of force, you know, and something like that.
But was it okay for the police to respond with tear gas?
As I said before, I will never support police brutality. I think at times they have used excessive force. But again, when I find people pelting stones, you know, disrupting peaceful demonstration, you should not disrupt the peace. And you know, I listened that they were walking, they wanted to march to State House. And I think we have a better way. We are much more civilized society to be able to clamor for whatever change we're looking for.
Okay. Well, before we jump back into politics, let's quickly turn to education. Of course, CS Mago has now cancelled national exams as schools are now set to reopen next year. And of course, there are Form 1, Form 4 candidates this year. There's Standard 8 pupils this year who were just eagerly waiting to say they've finished this story. And here they are next year. I mean, I guess at this point, there's really not much else that could be done. So it seems that will just have to be the case. Although there's a real concern about now our children really being able to catch up, you know, for the next year. So it seems everybody is going to have to repeat, or will there just be double the number of candidates next year?
I'd prefer that everyone just repeats. And the reason is because, once again, as we have said, we are in a very extraordinary times. Joyce, we better lose an year in education than lose people's lives. I think the time that has taken with the lockdown, with all the directives, it has given the country more time to absorb and to really know what we are into. What I would advocate for is that we just assume this year we were on holiday. of course not with the economy, but things to do with our children. Joyce, what would you want to look at? I'm a father of 2. I would not mind as long as we are doing good parenting at home.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, again, it's like parents are tired of staying with their children.
Right.
I give you a story of what happened 2-3 days ago, you'll be worried. You know, we hear in cases of rape, you know, child pregnancies. Are we using the schools as escapism routes for our parenting roles? So I want to believe and support that we let the children stay at home. We know not all that can access the virtual learning and all that. And next year they can have ample time to prepare and feel that they do not blame anything on their lives to what happened.
Turning to your party, the Jubilee Party,
Yes.
Deputy President William RUTO has now crafted a war council for his 2022 presidential bid, with the team made up of both new and old allies. You have this very big grin on your face. Tell me what's going through your head right now as I mentioned that.
Joyce, you know, you said war council. I'm not sure about a war council. I have tried to follow politics, although I'm a first-time elected member. I've tried to follow up politics of this country. And whenever there is change of regime, of course, there is a lot that comes to alignments, realignments. You know, we have tribal people forming tribal parties, a lot of briefcase parties coming about. And I think this is part of what we were talking about, democracy. What I want to say is that I expect politicians to go slow on all these political undertones, and especially because of the difficult conditions Kenyans are in.
Right.
It would be very, very selfish of me or anyone not to want another person to run for any position in this country. If I did not have the chance, I would not be an MCA. I would not be representing these people. If the deputy president feels he is right to be the president of this country, if Joyce feels she wants to vie for the position of whatever in this country, they need to be given an opportunity. But a word of caution is that we are yet to go to campaigns, and I would want that we be driven first by the manifestos, by delivering to Kenyans. Kenyans are tired of the dramas, politics every now and then. We are forcing people on curfews and other things, and as politicians, we are leading by going to rallies and holding parties and meetings in homesteads. I think that is very unlike what Kenyans would expect.
But the truth is, the truth, before you even state your last point, the truth is, though, COVID has kind of helped slow all this down, slow down all this madness, because essentially Kenyans were still having very significant problems even before COVID.
Yes.
Right? Yes. It's just that COVID has completely amplified them and showed exactly where the cracks are in our society. So I think the bigger question still remains, you know, yes, it is within the deputy president's rights, of course, to, you know, declare his interest in 2022 as it is for everybody else. I guess the main question is, why is it happening so soon? Obviously, there's been a huge rift within the Jubilee Party. Because ideally, of course, you'd want the president's backing. You know, as the deputy, that's sort of the most natural path to follow. But within the Jubilee Party, I mean, there's been tremendous shifting. There's alliances being created all over the place. What has happened, in your view, as a first-time politician? Now you're sort of right smack in the middle of the mix. What is it that you're seeing that the rest of us are not?
Joyce, I want to believe it's human that everyone would want to make an opportunity of, or to make the best of any opportunity that arises. What do I mean? I mean, like, there's a saying from where I come from that says that even when your house is on fire, you know, like your house is being raised by a fire, you still take the advantage of getting warm. You know, now, COVID is here. Politicians will take advantage of any situation. May it be the BBI, right? With very good intention. You've seen what it's come to be. So I really want to say that the focus now should be not be on who is politicking, who is not politicking. The focus would be putting pressure on our leaders that we support the president. And this is what I like, that the deputy president has, in the open, whatever he's admitted by himself, is that he supports the Big Four agenda, you know. And I think we should follow mostly of what politicians say and not really much more of what they do. If we Kenyans will be able to focus ourselves on the right thing and put pressure on the right thing, then we'll go rightly.
Although I have to caution you there, I think we certainly still should pay attention to what our politicians are doing, because the average monthly sitting allowance paid to an MCA, one like yourself, in the 9 months to March rose to 80,177 shillings.
Yeah.
That's the highest in 3 years. The county assemblies spent 1.6 billion shillings on MCA's sitting allowances, against an approved budget of 2.8 billion compared to 1.5 billion in the corresponding period a year earlier. Is this true? And is it I mean, seriously, is this what we should be spending money on right now?
Joyce, yes, it is true. And I would want to give you a background to that. The Parliamentary Service Commission had gone to court seeking for house allowance for the members of Parliament. One, we want to believe that the National Parliament and the County Assembly, they are both parliaments, they are houses of this, they're all state officers. So what happened is that the judgment of Justice Odunga, and this is after the County Assembly's forum, then chaired by Honorable Osoi, who happens to be my speaker, they had also presented a case on behalf of the MCAs. And the Gazette notice that was in effect in 2017, when we came into Parliament, we were being paid sitting allowance only for committee sittings. And plenary sittings, which are the actual Parliament sittings, the MCAs were not being paid plenary sitting allowances. So what happened after the judgment of Justice Odunga, although the MCAs did not qualify to get house allowances, and this is because, again, SRC did appeal, but however, the county assemblies all over the country in the months you've spoken about reverted back into a Gazette notice of March 2013. And in this Gazette notice, CRC had indicated that MCAs should be paid a maximum of 8 sitting allowances in a week. And this is why we see that that amount seemed to go higher. What I want to tell you is that what is set by SRC, and let us also agree and know that SRC is a constitutional body mandated to set those allowances and other remuneration for state officers. A chair of a committee is paid a sitting allowance of 5,000, a vice chair 4,000, and any other member 3,000. And just a minute, and you see that will give you an average of about 128,000 per month. However, you're speaking about 80,000. I want to believe it is modest. What I really want to say is this: what really matters at times when you want value of something is the outcome. Is the work the MCA is doing reminiscent of the amounts that are being paid?
But let me ask you this, Honorable James, because aren't you guys paid a salary?
Yes.
You're paid a salary?
Yes.
And then on top of it, there's, there are other benefits.
Yes.
It may not be a housing allowance, but there are other benefits.
Yes.
So, as a Kenyan citizen, my question then isn't that sort of like a measure of entitlement, really? That to go to work, someone has to be paid a sitting allowance? Whereas there are plenty of Kenyans who are doing their jobs with meager salaries. They don't get sitting allowances for anything. And so my question is, where does servant leadership check into all of that? That now I feel like it just creates the wrong motivation for one to choose to be a leader in this country.
Yeah.
If it's about a sitting allowance for this committee, a sitting allowance for that one, a benefit here, a benefit there, it's your job.
Joyce,
and you have a salary.
Once again, just a few minutes ago, we were talking about institutions and us as Kenyans empowering these institutions. As I've indicated, SRC is a constitutional body, and they rightfully passed these sitting allowances. I really want to sympathize with MCAs, and I wish you know this. Unlike our colleagues in the National Assembly who get grants, MCAs get loans. Once you are elected, you get a car loan, you get a mortgage. These are loans we pay for. Honestly, Joyce, I'm not sure where you come from or how close you or you even know your MCA, but I really want to tell you the spirit of devolution. The MCA's work, the burden on the MCA, being very close to the people, everything coming through the MCA's, just a pat on the back, I really think it is worth. Once again, it is said that that child who is active, or he really needs to be encouraged.
Yeah.
I think, and our salaries are something else to speak about. They are not. An MCA will get a basic salary of about 140,000 or something like that. When you remove, when you deduct the deductions, you realize what we are talking about.
Which 100,000 though for many others would be, you know, so we're not, I don't want us to diminish that amount,
Of
because
course,
I
of
think
course,
there's
of
maybe
course, yes.
30% of Kenyans who earn 100,000
yeah,
and
sure,
more.
sure.
But I think my point here is there's something wrong with our system somewhere, because I feel like creating all of these allowance for this, travel allowance for that, this is, you know, it's the same problems we've talked about before, where you have ministers traveling to foreign countries just because there's an allowance attached to it. There's something wrong with the system that is creating the wrong motivations for people to want to get into leadership and into government. I think that is my
yeah,
my
true,
concern.
but however, I also want to say that human being is driven by motivation. Right, I'm motivated by service to my people. When I see myself delivering to what I promised the people. But however, and I think this is one of the reasons that SRC and also Justice Odunga saw the reason or the need of reverting back to the 13th March 2013 Gazette notice. You realize that without the sitting allowances, it would affect even sessions. It would affect plenary. It would affect members going for these sessions, and that's why I have said it is human that people are encouraged, are driven, are motivated by, are encouraged. You can imagine, I go from Rongai to Kajiado 3 days in a week for my sittings. We have members coming even from farther, you know.
Okay.
The expansive counting and things
All
like
right.
that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your thoughts and your feedback. I think these are questions a lot of
Sure.
Kenyans have on their minds.
Yeah.
It's good to hear your opinions on it as well. And we do appreciate your time.
Great.
Asante.
Karibu
All right, guys,
sana.
we're going to take a break now. Coming up next, we're going to jump and switch gears completely. We're going to jump into skincare and a health detox that you can try out at home. This is Full Circle with Joyce. Stay tuned.
Asante sana.